closed doors, or even behind iron walls, to feel the need to be set free. You want to liberate your mind, controlling secrets, yet you will find the need to be set free. And the Lord says, captives be free, just come to me. I'll break those chains that hold you down.
Hi everybody, welcome to another session of Heroes of Hope. We're so excited that you can be with us today. We have a great show for you. Today we have in our studio Everett Miller, Bridge Back to Life, and we're excited to be able to have him. He brings a lot of expertise to the table. You've been hearing all kinds of testimonies and about different organizations, which is what Heroes of Hope show is designed to do. And today, no different, we're bringing to you Bridge Back to Life. So Everett, welcome. Thank you so much for coming out and being a part of this. I know you have a busy schedule like the rest of us, and you made time to be here. And I'm pretty sure that the viewers, the first thing that they want to know is pretty much a little more about you. So why don't you just share with us a little more about yourself?
Well, thank you, Pastor Joe. I appreciate coming here, and thank you for the opportunity to speak to everybody here. As was said, my name is Everett Miller with Bridge Back to Life. We are a substance abuse outpatient treatment program. I've been in the substance abuse field since 2003. I've worked in outpatient treatment programs, inpatient treatment programs. I've worked with assessment units. I've been on coalitions and committees and projects trying to really tackle the addiction situation that's going on across New York City as well as Long Island.
That's a pretty intense resume in reference to working on all these things in different fields. You know, when you think about Staten Island, and I know for you it's a little broader, you know, we're doing this show because of what's happening in Staten Island and trying to raise awareness and let people know about the different resources that we have and working together. But with you and your organization, I know it's you've been working much more than just Staten Island. And so can you give us a better understanding of what are your thoughts of first what's specifically happening here in Staten Island and what you're seeing here and your heart concerning that?
Well, specifically in Staten Island, what's really happening is phenomenal in my opinion, is you have a lot of organizations coming together. The state has recently started to organize and get a lot of the hospital systems and programs to come together to battle addiction. Staten Island has really been together. When we all got in the room in Staten Island specifically, most of us already knew each other. So we already started from a good place. We knew about the community needs that were happening out here in Staten Island. Where you saw in a lot of the other boroughs, as well as Long Island, it was a lot of people getting to know each other and getting to know what's happening in the communities. So Staten Island, I believe, was ahead of the game as far as us as a community, as providers, as professionals, being able to come together and hit the ground running, so to speak. So we already know a lot of the issues that are going on as far as addiction, recovery, substance abuse, overdose. And we already know what stops people from coming into these to these situations is there's a lot of stigma involved, there's a lot of shame, there's a lot of regret. Family members are in denial, patients are in denial. So really addressing that issue has been a big focus on what we're doing out here. And that's what you guys have definitely brought to light, is getting the information to the family members and creating a comfortable place for them to talk about it, understand it, and to learn about it.
Yeah, it's pretty heavy. Even mental illness has been a stigma that people just don't want to deal with or talk about. But but yet it's a big part. It's a big piece of the pie when it comes to drug addiction.
Yes, well, it overlaps.
Yeah.
There are a lot of people that suffer from mental illness that will use substances to self-medicate. Maybe they've been to a doctor, they don't like what the doctor's told them, they've seen a specialist, or they just haven't been assessed and they haven't seen it, but they know that they drink or they smoke or they use certain drugs, and that helps them to cope with life, so they think they're doing okay and they're self-medicating. So that's what we also try to address when we're doing our assessments, when we're doing our treatment, is to identify, after we've assessed the person and determined what their substance use disorder is, to step back and try to look at, okay, was this caused by a pre-existing mental health condition? And over 50% of people that we treat are diagnosed with a mental health illness. And we try to figure out, was that prior to them having a substance use disorder, or did it come because of?
Right.
Because using drugs or alcohol can also cause mental illness.
Yeah.
It can cause depression, it can cause anxiety. People can have post-traumatic stress disorder from certain things that they've done in their addiction, in seeking drugs, in using drugs, and lifestyle. The lifestyle that goes along sometimes with substance use can cause people to suffer from these.
It's amazing. Years ago, coming out of the life I came out of in downtown Brooklyn in the 70s, it was like you could pretty much identify who was a drug addict. And what I mean by that is that, people that were on drugs, everybody knew were on the streets. They were, copping drugs and doing drugs, and you can identify who they were. But it seems like now things have evolved so much that there's probably even more people that are addicted to drugs that are not straight up categorized as drug addict, that's maybe hanging out in the park. But yet, in the sense, they're addicted just as much as people that are, let's say, on heroin, hanging out in Tappan Park or in Thompson Park or something to that effect. And it's sad to see the evolution, how it's evolved to this point. But Staten Island's got hit in a very, very heavy way concerning this drug epidemic. Let me ask you this question: when you talk about Staten Island coming together, when we got in a room and all the fields were together, working together, and a lot of people knew each other, is it safe to say that here in Staten Island, we are pretty much, we rejoice over it, I'm sure, we are pretty much the pace setter or trailblazer for something that's happening in every borough of New York, in a sense?
Well, in a good way and a bad way.
Okay.
In the good way, in that most of us as professionals and most of us as practitioners in the mental health, in the medical as well as the substance abuse field, we kind of know each other. So we know when we want to do some projects, we want to get some stuff done, we're able to do that. But in the bad way, in that, as you were saying about stigma and the history of addiction, the stigma around addiction was that only those people that you can see and and you can tell who they are were the ones suffering from addiction. But we found that, unfortunately, it's a lot of people are suffering from addiction, but they keep it hidden. They maintain a job, they maintain a relationship, and you might not see the negative consequences of their addiction readily.
Until something happens.
Right, so they feel it. And a lot of the problems that Staten Island has had, as well as Long Island and South Brooklyn, revolves around the prescription drug epidemic that's happened. So we saw an outbreak in Staten Island of prescription drug overdoses, overprescribing by doctors, and there wasn't a lot of communication before, where someone would go to a doctor, they would get a prescription, they'd go to another doctor, they'd come to a treatment program, they'd get another prescription, and they'd be going to 3 or 4 different doctors, professionals to get this. So the city and state came up with a project called iStop, where whenever somebody comes in and we're going to prescribe any type of medication, we're able to check the system to see, have they been prescribed any medication from another doctor, and have they been to any pharmacies to fill those prescriptions. So now we're able to see that information, so it really helps us to identify that, and now we're able to identify those people that were drug seeking, that were overprescribed, that were, not really getting addressed before. So it came out of that, and now that we're battling the prescription drug epidemic and we're able to address that, if people can't get their drugs legally,
I was just going to ask you that.
what happens is people now go out into the street and they start to buy illegal drugs. So somebody that may have been prescribed, gotten addicted to some prescription medication that can't get it legally now
Now
they're
they're
going to
doing heroin.
resort to using heroin.
That's
And
heavy.
heroin is cheaper.
Yeah.
Somebody goes and buys a pill on the street for $20, $30, they can buy a bag of heroin for $5. So we're seeing the transition from the prescription opioid overdoses and the epidemic.
Where some of the heroin is actually spiked with different things. so
Right, we've
different
had a
chemicals.
recent, they're always mixed, they're always cut with something. You're not getting pure heroin, and in order to increase their profit margins, and these drug dealers are very good at keeping their customers addicted, but they don't want to kill them. They want to keep them addicted, and they want to keep them coming back. So they cut it and they spike it, but if they don't do it properly, these people overdose. And recently we actually had them, they've been spiking it with fentanyl, which is an extremely powerful prescription drug that if somebody don't know that they're taking it, they can overdose with that.
Which in their mindset, if out of 100 people, if one person actually overdosed and died, it actually sent 90 other people saying this is the good stuff, or 99 other people looking for that because that's the good stuff. Because
Right.
so and so, it's a mentality.
It is.
A drug addict mentality that comes with it too. That's a very heavy mindset that needs to be broken, and it's directly connected to the addiction. But even after the addiction or the chemicals gone, it's still a thought process that needs to be changed in being having that mentality.
Well, it's also human behavior. In order for us to survive in this world, because we all experience negative situations, we all experience death, we all experience these things, the human mind forgets the negative and remembers the positive. So all of these people that remember the bad situations, they start to forget them. They remember the good sensations they had from it, and they always believe that it's not going to hurt. They believe that if you use drugs and you overdose and you die, well, I could probably use and get to that point, but it's not going to affect me the same way it affected
Right.
you. I'm stronger than you. So even within the drug abusing culture, there's this sense that the ones who are using, who overdose, they just didn't know how to manage their addiction.
It's amazing. Let me ask you this question. This is all great stuff that we're talking about, and I'm sure there's people out there that are really excited about receiving some of this information. But when it comes to Bridge Back to Life,
Right.
we want to know more about what exactly do you do at Bridge Back to Life, and then also we've heard that now you're sitting in one of the chairs on TISA,
Yes.
tackling youth substance abuse. So why don't you share a little bit about both in reference to what you're working on now?
Okay. So Bridge Back to Life, as I said in the beginning, it's a substance abuse treatment program. We're a network of outpatient treatment programs. We do have a location here in Staten Island. We have other locations in the other boroughs. Out here in Staten Island, we have what's called intensive outpatient treatment, non-intensive outpatient treatment, and ambulatory detox, which basically means that instead of somebody going inpatient or going into the hospital for a detox, we can actually treat them on an outpatient basis, give them some pain management medication to help them deal with their cravings and deal with their pain, and then we can start to prescribe either, we use Suboxone or Vivitrol. Suboxone is a strip that people get based on their withdrawal and based on their dependence. Our doctor will prescribe a certain dose that they take every day. The Vivitrol is actually an injectable shot that they get every 28 days. So they come in, they're seeing us for therapy, which is different from what doctors will normally do for addiction. Is doctors will just prescribe some medication,
Right.
and
And
then
then
30
hope you
days
manage
later,
it.
right, or they won't refer them. They'll try to manage the person in their offices, but we now, working better with the doctors in the community, they're actually referring them to us to also receive treatment.
Good.
So in conjunction with treatment, they're receiving medication-assisted therapy, either with Suboxone or Vivitrol, and we're able to follow up with them and treat them on an individual basis. We have a host of other services within Bridge Back to Life, anger management, parenting, family services, DWI services. We have a domestic abuse intervention program for those people that unfortunately get in because of their addiction. They get into a domestic violence situation and now they go to court and they have to take a program. We also have military veteran services. We can treat veterans in our program that are suffering from addiction and that. And then we also have a network of other providers. So if somebody comes to us and we do an assessment and we're not the appropriate level of care for them, we can make a referral to an appropriate level of care, whether that be a detox or an inpatient program, and then treat that person for that. So that's specifically
Awesome.
the services at Bridge Back to Life. As you
When
mentioned,
you deal with Bridge Back to Life, is there an age that you're treating in reference, or is it across the board in different categories of ages that you're able to deal with?
well, we normally will separate the young adults and adolescents from the adults.
But you do treat them.
Yes, we treat
Awesome.
adolescents and young adults from 13 up to 18. Depending on their drug of choice and their history of addiction, maybe somebody could be 19, 20 years old if they're a low-level user. And then 18 and above are generally for the adults and, somebody who has more of an intense, deep-rooted.
There's a lot of people out there right now looking for different places for people from 13 to 18 to do, and it's the legal ramifications for organizations to be able to do that is very touchy. So for the people to know that there are organizations that can sit with young people, treat and talk with them and counsel them and encourage them and lead them along the way, it's very important. But
And that's also why Bridge Back to Life, we started working with Tackling Youth Substance Abuse, which you mentioned. I originally started as a chairperson with their Continuum of Care group, and as of this year, I'm on the executive board with Tackling Youth Substance Abuse, which, as you've been to our meetings, it's really a collection of providers, a collection of the the hospital systems, the schools, NYPD, FDNY,
Churches.
faith-based
Yeah.
community centers, which, as I've said, is where Staten Island kind of leads in reference to, in the other boroughs, there are communities and there's committees and there's different things that are getting together, but I've seen Staten Island as far as bringing all the different professionals together and all the different community people together. It's pretty
exciting.
pretty
because-
exciting and amazing.
Yeah, well, I've been, like you said, I've been part of that now for about 7 months, 8 months, and when being asked to be on the steering committee, it literally has been teaching us a lot, because we, as the clergy of Staten Island, we haven't had the ability to come up with the statistics and the surveys that you guys have been able to come up with. It's phenomenal how much material I've been able to present to all the pastors throughout Staten Island in reference to what's going on. And it really it refreshes them, because of the fact that the statistics do reflect a lot of the family members of people that are sitting in our congregations. And we get a lot of those people that come to us and they're crying because of the fact that their child is on drugs, or their husband or their wife or somebody in their family has been either addicted to something, or someone has passed away because of this epidemic. So it's like we all have a piece to this puzzle, and when one of the pieces is missing, it's unfulfilled. And so watching us all come together and bring our piece to that table, it's tremendously refreshing. And so I'm real excited to be a part of what's going on here. When you think about some of the things that have taken place throughout last year, and you already probably have some type of an understanding of what you're working on with Bridge Back to Life and with TISA, what are your thoughts with events that happened last year versus the vision that we might be having concerning working together to make impact this year in 2017? There's every organization's working individually.
Yes.
But there's times when we come together to do some crazy stuff, to make some noise. And so is there anything on your agenda or anything that you know about concerning the vision of 2017 that you see that's happening?
Well, I think it's definitely continuing with what you guys are doing with Heroes of Hope, and putting on these projects, putting on these events to really get the information out there to the families. We, as far as the treatment field, we've always had a committee. All 5 boroughs actually in New York City have a committee that meets regularly. We meet monthly to discuss issues, to talk about things, to train some of our colleagues in the field. And what happened last year is that Department of Health actually got all of us from all 5 boroughs to start meeting on a quarterly basis. So out of that, this year I really see us coming together more as a city and across the city and things happening. But I have to say, you know, when we sat in the room when we first met, I was kind of like you. I saw, wow, TISA, the steering committee, has all these different people. You were doing your thing, we were doing our thing, Borough President's office was doing their thing, and we were all starting to see, well, if we come together and we really start to organize and motivate, I think we're going to have a better impact. Part of the problem, unfortunately, is that we've heard from people that even when we do these events, we get family members, we get community people that complain that we're doing these events, that we're trying to help people that probably don't want help anyway. So, you know, that's unfortunately the discouraging part, because we do a lot of work in the community. We go into the schools, we go into the communities, we do trainings, we do education pieces. They have this new life-saving technique, Narcan. It's a injectable blocker of somebody, you know, who's who's overdosed.
Yeah, in the process of an overdose.
In the process of an overdose, we can administer
They can actually
Narcan
bring them back to life.
and bring them back. And when we go to the communities and we go to the schools and we do these trainings, people are complaining, why are you spending money on this? So I think that piece of it is what we need to change, which we're doing, I believe, in getting to people to realize that it's not that drug addict that's in the park that looks like a drug addict. It could be somebody's mother, it could be somebody's father, it's somebody's son, it's a family member.
That's right.
You know, and everybody that I speak to knows someone, whether it is their family member, whether it's a very close friend who suffered from addiction, but there's still a negative feeling towards the work that we do sometimes. So I think it's changing that
There's a
mindset.
lot of people, there's a lot of people out there that it hasn't knocked on their door or it hasn't become personal. And there's many different ways to look at it. You know,
Or even when it does, they want to hide it.
Yeah.
There's shame that goes along with it.
And a lot of the shame is connected to their credibility, to their personality, to the you know, their celebrityism or you know what I mean, they're known in the community or things to that effect. And sometimes our pride gets in the way of what's in reality that's happening in our homes. This epidemic has literally hit from, you know, areas of Staten Island that are $1 million homes down to the housing developments. It does not matter. It has not respected anybody. It's hit everybody from the 4 corners of Staten Island. And I think that's one of the reasons why we want this show to be successful. None of us, every one of us are just taking our time to do this. And the reason why I'm saying that is because I can't wait to bring on some parents that have actually lost some loved ones concerning this epidemic and things like that. And they can look in the camera and be able to share with people, because there's mothers out there or fathers out there that maybe have a negative twist on why you're spending money on this and all these different things, but I guess they're not connected to it in a personal way. But hearing the heart of a broken mother, hearing the heart of a broken father, I think it'll change their understanding of what's really going on. And I guess we both hope that it would never come knocking at anybody's door, but the reality is it's throughout Staten Island. Well, I want to give you 60 seconds and address the viewers of Heroes of Hope and share your heart with them in reference to what you think, a word of encouragement or availability of Bridge Back to Life, in whichever way you want, to be able to let them know that there is hope, let them know that we are working together and all these different things. That's what this show's about, to be able to give that type of platform. So it's all yours. Share with the people of Staten Island what your thoughts are before we get ready to close out today.
Thank you. What I would say is, recently, in the substance abuse treatment field, we actually received a report by the Surgeon General of the United States, which identified that most likely 1 in 10 individuals that have a substance use disorder are actually receiving treatment. So that means that 9 in 10 people are not receiving treatment that are suffering from addiction, and it may be a family member. So what we would do is ask that the family members to support those individuals that are actually suffering from this and be a part of their recovery, and don't just push it on to us or those in the community, but be a part of it and come into us, and we can assist you. At Bridge Back to Life and other programs, we can support the families and the patient in their recovery.
That's pretty awesome. Well, you heard it here once again at Heroes of Hope. We have many different organizations that we're bringing to you, and we really want to encourage you to write down all these numbers and websites, because one, not only maybe you don't know what you need them for right now, but there's going to be a lot of friends and a lot of families out there that are going to need assistance, or going to need resources. And just by you watching the show today, you're able to accumulate some information to be a blessing to their lives. It might be your neighbor. It might be somebody you just met in the store down the corner and you heard their conversation. Be a blessing. Why? This is our island. And it's on our watch that we need to come together and make a difference. That doesn't mean you have to be in the church. That doesn't mean you have to be a part of Bridge Back to Life. That means that we're all coming together to tackle substance abuse. And so we need you just as much as you need us. And we all need to come out of denial and step into the grace of God right now and be able to make that difference. So I want to leave you with this thought. Heroes of Hope is doing many different events. You can tune in on Facebook, Heroes of Hope, and you can see all that's happening. Everything that we do is together. And when I say together, I mean from the political field to organizations, to TISA, to Bridge Back to Life, to the churches and different religious organizations. We are coming together, crossing all the lines to just embrace Staten Island in the best way that we know how. We can do that more effectively if we could do it with you. So God bless you and have a great night.
Good night.
Thank you so much.